Good evening, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with Alok. Namaste. We are continuing Book 2, the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds, Canto 10, Kingdoms and Godheads of the Little Mind, page 248.
So, as we have been reading, there is a very beautiful essay of Sri Aurobindo where he talks about antiquity and modernity. And he describes how the face of the future is like a sphinx. It attracts us and we are also afraid of it. The danger is, there is the wager of danger. And that's why sometimes, we Sri Aurobindo, it's very often, we find it. He says it is neither antiquity nor modernity. But now this is not what he says, but I may put it, it's eternity, something that's going to endure. This is what he wants to create. But human mind cannot see in that large spaces of time. So there are many who pick up things from Sri Aurobindo which confirm the tradition, the spirit of the tradition, but they impose the form as if it's the same thing Sri Aurobindo is saying. Human mind has a tendency to fall back on tradition, which we read last time. The physical, it tries to fix things. It cannot understand without that. Oh, Sri Aurobindo is saying something same which is there in the Vedas, in the Upanishads. Right, he wrote about it. He liberated the truths concealed in that, but he goes further. Now there are others who catch this aspect that he is going beyond the tradition. But they are impatient. They want to create in haste. So everything that is going around New Age, now New Age has come. New Age music, New Age culture, New Age. So that is another kind of trap. And Sri Aurobindo says we have to be careful and avoid both these traps. The trap of antiquity where we fall back into tradition and thereby finish anything new.
And look to the past.
And look to the past. And the trap of modernity.
Yes.
Oh, the New Age has come. It's everything now is New Age. So that's where he is describing to us. Most importantly, we cannot create a new world or rather participate by wishful thinking. This is what often it happens. People come sometimes to ashram or Auroville and they get disheartened because they have read all about the beautiful things. Oh, it's wonderful, divine collaboration. Oh, this is where there are no barriers, everything. So they come. So some of them, when they get disheartened, I had a couple of people like that, and they asked me, oh, we feel this, that. I said, we thought it's a utopia. I said, yes, it's a utopia. You should add the word utopia in the making. It's going to take a few centuries. And when you enter a utopia of like this kind, you are one of the builders. You want to have an Arab Spring where you have the, all the nice things arranged, you pay a money and enter a utopia. This is not a utopia like that because you have to deserve the new creation, hence you have to become a builder. Don't expect that it is there. I mean, it's ready right behind the scene. But each one who engages with it, to the extent he is open and sincere, he will discover it within himself. Christ saying the kingdom of heaven has to be discovered within. And then he becomes an instrument of spreading it outside. But if you enter thinking outside everything is wonderful and I just got to slip in there and find my place carrying with me the same old consciousness, then it won't work because your consciousness is not changed. So you won't be able to see even the utopia. So it's a magical place. Now this is what he's describing. It's not a wishful thinking, not a sentimental idealism with which we want to create.
Yes.
And that's what we read. We continue, an eager spring to seize and to possess, unguided by reason or the seeing soul. So these are the two guides which moderate it. Hold on. It's not like, every new music is not a, new age music. It's every cult is not a, in the light of that great truth which we are going to see manifest. Was its first natural motion and its last. So neither it had the power of reason to moderate it, and nor the light of the soul to guide it. It just seized on this moment, that moment, jumped from here to there. Almost like New World is a McDonald's where you go pay a few bucks and get it ready made. It's not like that.
This is an eager spring.
Yes, spring to
seize.
seize. It's going to take time, and it's a big labor. That's why the word should use the word ashram, means labor. And even when everything is perfect to somebody's inner vision, yet every new entrant has to go through the labor. His ego will be hurt and kicked because he has to discover this perfection first within. Otherwise, how will he discover? Even if everybody is beautiful and divine, still, and that's why we see even when Mother and Sri Aurobindo physically, they're still there physically, but physically in the gross physical, still people went through those phases of unhappiness and sometimes writing, oh, where is justice? And Mother would say, Sri Aurobindo said, this is not a tribunal of justice. You don't expect us to act like a judge when sadhaks quarrel.
Mother would never take part in any of it.
She has said, I don't take sides.
No.
I don't have opinions. And she would change because the whole world is being recreated each moment. So it's a very different, not a rigid, fixed, formatted place.
Champaka tells that story about the plastic flowers.
Yeah, Champaklal,
That
yes.
she hated plastic flowers.
It looked like that. When people brought anything artificial,
yeah.
she wouldn't like it.
And then they started making more and more beautiful plastic flowers, and she liked them.
She liked them. So he says that if somebody suddenly left the ashram, who at that point of time and would come back, I would say, what, these people are using plastic flowers. Actually, in that story, I have another dimension of it. As I understood, it's not written there, but as I understood that when Mother was putting away the plastic flowers, she would take in hand and putting away. I remember that line from the Mother, even her rejections are not rejections but postponements. She was infusing in the artificial world a grain of truth that make it beautiful.
Good thought.
That's how I looked at it, that she was taking in hand. She was not, and then she would put it aside. He describes it like that, as if she is not interested. But what she was doing occultly, that she was infusing consciousness that, well, even in this, bring out that truth and beauty. And when it started coming, then she would accept. So it was also an occult action, because it makes it more general in everything. It squandered life's force to achieve the impossible. That's what I said. Ready-made utopia. I don't want to work for it. Sri Aurobindo has written, now I go and I find it. It's an impossible miracle. Sri Aurobindo uses the word, you expect an impossible upside down miracle. It's a letter to Dilip Kumar Roy. That I'll keep doubting, I'll keep having mistrust and everything, and yet the divine grace should achieve the impossible. So he says there are conditions upon earth, conditions set by the force itself. And these conditions are set so that we can become ready. So he says you are expecting an impossible upside down miracle. So it scorned the straight road and ran on wandering curves. This is the nature of this life mind, that vital mind, that it runs here and there. Anything fashionable, it draws attention. And, I think this mind must have invented WhatsApp. And oh, there is a new world. Look at it. Something new technology. Artificial intelligence. Now, we are going to have supermental life. And left what it had won for untried things. That's what. It saw unrealized aims as instant fate. God in a McDonald's store. Cup of noodles, 2 minutes. And it happens. You see, many spiritual cults thrive on this. Give money, sit for meditation, we'll teach you a technique 1 week and you will have some experience. Now, this some experience. And when you shell out money, you better think there is an experience. You see, it's not good to shell out $2,000 and come back after 1 week and say, I had nothing. It needs tremendous inner courage. But that's not what the new world is about. It's a solid work. Just to lay the foundation takes time. Sri Aurobindo used the word 12 years minimum just to have the foundation of peace and equanimity. Forget about building the new world.
My friend attended Deepak Chopra's seminars.
Yes.
$5,000 per
That's what
person.
I'm saying. So that kind of a new world, that's not Sri Aurobindo. He's not into that business. And you feel good naturally. You spend so much money, you better feel good. I have a very simple logic about it. If something is, it happens. Something is given to you just like that. Very often we don't value. Look what happens to the ashram. You walk in, you open your chappals, and before you can ask anyone, there is the samadhi. There is no priest who is there to tell you. And you go at the samadhi wondering what is this place, and then you suddenly bow because you see everybody is probably bowing the head, and you come out, you don't realize what you have touched. Of course, most do feel something. But imagine if there's a big halabaloo and somebody queuing you, putting something here, then charging money, deluxe darshan. We have in Tirupati, special darshans and all these. Thankfully, all this is not there, and it's an illusion. It saw unrealized aims as instant fate and chose the precipice for its leap to heaven. So it can be dangerous. In synthesis, Sri Aurobindo cautions that God's ways are not the ways of human working. And if in our impatience and haste we are dazzled by miracles, by miraculous things, we run the danger of actually assuming a dark and diabolic power. His words are very different, but the essence is this: as having a divine name. Because we are in haste, we want instant miracles. That's how we understand divinity.
And there are plenty of forces ready to grant it to us.
Yes. Healers. Even here I have seen,
Yes.
people, healers came from somewhere, healing by grace. Hundreds of people registered. And they asked me, I said, thankfully I have read Mother and Sri Aurobindo and have some experience by their grace to go into all this humbug. But there were hundreds of people who signed up. I was very surprised. Another healer came, another who was hitting people here, there. They came after 2 days with bruises for treatment. So I said, who told you this? Oh, he told us if you hit. Then they were hitting so hard as if all the diseases will go away. Not realizing you are torturing your body. We want that. But so he is saying, chose the precipice to leap to heaven. I have arrived. So all this is to caution us. Adventure, its system in the gamble of life. It took fortuitous gains as safe results. I got all right. Yes, faith is a healer. Error discouraged not its confident view, ignorant of the deep law of being's ways, and failure could not slow its fiery clutch. I have seen this. You tell people, there was another miracle healer long back, and he suddenly came and said, he could heal this way, that way. And I was surprised. I had walked into somebody's room and he started, okay, you think of you're a doctor and you think of some patient and I'll visualize and I'll heal. So what will I do? He started doing something and started giving his prediction about what he has seen. I just smiled. So they asked, what happened? I said, I was thinking of Mother. You are healing and finding things which are but they don't understand. It continues. I saw him continuing, coming here, staying here. A lot of courses used to go on. So it is because reason is not there.
And when you say here, you mean in the ashram?
Yeah. All around, everywhere. Because human beings are the same. So it wants something quick. It is not ready to pay the price. It's an exacting price. Perfection means annihilation of the ego. All mysticism, by the way, has stressed it. I remember Guru Nanak's one of the Shabads, he says, it's a difficult game. The most difficult game. Mother uses the word, it's the greatest of all adventures. And he says, don't enter into it. Mother also says, unless you are Not only sincere, you are ready to become more and more sincere as the fire progresses. It's a difficult game. Ask Kabir, he will say that you have to cut your head and keep it outside before you enter into the house. Mother and Shobhinder made it very easy for us. But even then, very easy means still the opening has to be there. One chance made true warranted all the rest. No, I have healed. That's enough.
Yeah.
Attempt, not victory, was the charm of life. An uncertain winner of uncertain stakes, instinct its dam and the life mind its sire.
Oh.
It ran its race and came in first or last. It reminds me of that, donkey called Bodo. So, boy, it's a perfect example of. And Shobhinder started with wild ass.
Right. The red wild ass.
So, Bodo was a donkey who had mother's darshan. By chance, by default. The fellow was carrying, and what is everybody looking? Oh, he also stood. And then mother saw and said, this donkey is receptive. So, the donkey was bought. Now, you know his story. He would do no work and keep jumping around. And when you give work, it will become quiet. It will not do anything. And Shobhinder remarked, typical sadhak. So, but there was a donkey race once in Pondicherry. So, Bodo also was in the race. Now, Bodo doesn't know all this. He has grown up in ashram. He doesn't know competition, ambition. Now, all the donkeys ran at the shot. They've been trained. So, they're all running, and these people from ashram had gone to cheer. Bodo, run, nothing. Bodo still doesn't know. Why should it run? It doesn't want to labor. Now, donkeys have gone half the way. This is a real story. Then they didn't know what to do. So they started invoking mother. Imagine great sadhaks invoking mother for the donkey. Suddenly Bodo ran. And Bodo outsmarted everybody and came first. This is a true story. As if Bodo ran. So it's like that. It came first or last. The red wild ass of the vital mind. Yet where it works, but now comes the yet, like the traditional mind, the physical mind, he shows us also its beauty. This is also needed. Because, at our level of evolution, most of humanity needs some kind of an instant hope. Many people, when they read the mother, and Shobhinder says, do not imagine that truth and falsehood can stay in the same. They get frightened. They say, oh, very big condition. Then there is somebody who calls them on the side. No, don't worry. I'll teach you a nice meditation technique. Is it? There is a possibility like that? Yes. After some time they discover there was nothing like this. You have still to do it. But by then they are hooked well. So it is a good thing. But till then, so how beautifully Shobhinder says, yet where it works, nor small and vain, nor null. Shobhinder speaks of mother's space, says these vital beings help others somewhere to turn to spiritual life. It is the homage they pay. But they are seeking after ambition and money. That's it. They want money and ambition. And yet they pay homage. There are people who came from Muktanand. And when Muktanand died, they felt what a release. Because he used to capture them, their mind. And he was a Ashuddha sadhu. Nalnida said he had experiences. He could give you Shaktipat and experience. That Kundalini and all that stuff. But then they were caught in a net and couldn't go further. And I know people who have come and confided to me, oh, what a release when he died. They felt they are now free to evolve. And they didn't realize it while he was still in the body. I mean, God bless.
Of course, we have terrible instances in America.
Yeah, well. Yes, that's right. Yet where its works, nor small and vain nor null, it has been allowed with a purpose. It nursed a portion of infinity's strength and could create the high things its fancy willed. It's a fanciful creation, but nevertheless it could create. Its passion caught what calm intelligence missed. Some of the people leaped into yoga because of this. Amal Kiran once asked Shorbindo, My vital is riddled with difficulties, but I think it is my mind which is so strong because of which I turn to yoga. He said, no, it is because of your vital. And he captures it very beautifully in one of his talks. He said, one of my difficulty was, I fell in love at 7 years of age. And I had this tendency to fall in love. So, but one day it paid me when I fell in love at the Divine Mother. Beautifully recounts it.
Yes.
And I fell at her feet. But it was the vital which once it jumped, it said that's the end of the story, whatever happens. So it has its own purpose. In sight of impulse laid its leaping grasp. On heaven's high thought had hidden in dazzling mist. Because thought weaves a wonder web. Not a wonder web, but a web. So it doesn't allow you to go further. But the vital takes a leap. So that's how it could go there. Caught glimmers that revealed a lurking sun. It probed the void and found a treasure there. So it's like most of the people when they take to yoga have a lot of experience in the vital in the beginning. Many start thinking this is we have arrived. Not realizing these are all experiences in the vital. Most of them. True soul experiences come much later. And then you go through a passage. Then you wonder, oh, what happened to those experiences? Well, now you are being prepared for the real stuff. But it allowed them to hold on. Imagine if there was nothing. Very few would, hold on. So it catches a glimmer. Something like a shadow. And yet that helps to stick on. A half intuition purpled in its sense. It threw the lightning's fork and hit the unseen. So it's something they catch. But it is colored, purpled in its sense. They don't understand its meaning, the real meaning. It saw in the dark and vaguely blinked in the light. Ignorance was its field, the unknown its prize. It's a very beautiful description again of the vital mind. And its field was ignorance, it was laboring in that, not laboring, rather hitting the fork and at something it was hitting which it thought, okay, this is it. But it was necessary to nurture and nourish the hope. That was its purpose. Otherwise, if it's pure physical mind, it just doubts and doubts and doubts or falls back upon tradition. So it at least does that. It breaks free from that, and there are few things, only it is too hasty, too impatient, and not ready to undertake the long journey.
And this is the second of the three.
Second of the three. So now comes the third one. To temper its spirit. That look, you are a wild ass, you better learn to behave. It comes to tame. Of all these powers, the greatest was the last. Still the human mind, not the greater mind, which will come later. Arriving late from a far plane of thought into a packed, irrational world of chance, where all was grossly felt and blindly done. It arrives in a world where still it is not equipped well. The moment it arrives, even observation, the data is grossly felt and blindly done. Yet the haphazard seemed the inevitable. Came reason, the squat Godhead artisan.
Oh.
So it comes sitting, that Rodin's thinker.
Yeah.
So it reminds you of actually it's the way he describes squat.
Yeah.
And it's board head, which is, it's the thinker. If
But he
have to-
calls it an artisan.
Well, yes, it is.
It
It
is.
must create. To her narrow house upon a ridge in time,
Oh.
adept of clear contrivance and design, a pensive face and close and peering eyes, she took her firm and irremovable seat, the strongest, wisest of the troll-like three. Troll-like. So he sets it in context. Not just the strongest and widest, but among these three fellows, reason must come to, when it's tradition, reason must come to say that, look, everything that is there in tradition is not necessarily right. It was in context. The context is gone. Move forward. Take out the spirit. Reason will tell us that. Equally, when the vital mind rushes and says, I went and Guruji gave me such wonderful experience, the reason will say, are you sure? Are you sure you are on the right track? Look around everything. Look how, what ostentatiousness. Couldn't you see the pomp? All these things. Reason will bring that sense into the vital mind. It cannot show the truth, but it will tend to bring some sanity and wisdom. So, even though use the word wise, that is its field. Armed with a lens and measuring rod and probe, she looked upon an object universe. It looks very objectively at everything. And the multitudes that in it live and die, and the body of space and the fleeing soul of time, and took the earth and stars into her hands to try what she could make of these strange things. So it doesn't go into the unknown. It says, okay, let me start with the field I can observe. Why is the grass green? What is hidden inside the mud? What possibility? Can I measure the distance of the stars? Can I predict the events happening in the sun? So this is how reason advances, with measuring rod and probe. In her strong, purposeful, laborious mind, purposeful. So it always sets a thesis which it tries to then find and discover, prove or disprove, inventing her scheme lines of reality and the gossamer web on and the geometric curves of her time plan. She multiplied her slow half cuts at truth. She breaks the whole into parts. Okay, let me study this part of the ocean. Let me study this much space which is between Earth and Moon. Then extend it to Mars, then to the Sun, then to galaxy. That's how it goes. Similarly, let me break this atom, this matter, solid substance into atoms. Then break it further, then break it further, break it further. So that it can handle it. That's how it goes on.
The work of science for centuries.
Science for centuries. That's why it goes in this way. Impatient of enigma and the unknown. You can't say, this is beyond the mind. Reason doesn't like it. It says, no, I can know everything. This is its problem. But that comes later. It's impatient of these things, that there is mistake, there is the deeper sense, a higher truth. It doesn't understand. If you tell any rational human being, he will retort back. He'll say, well, then it's an imponderable. That's why Buddha appeals to the rational mind. Because the moment you engaged Buddha in debates of the beyond, he would take you out of that. Because it's an imponderable. Have the experience. But when you spoke about this earth and the issues that, well, I am suffering, you would say, yes, because of ignorance. Because of desire. If you have desire, you would suffer. Now, this is rational. Because you see it in everyday life that if you have desire, expectation, you will suffer. So this appeals. But then why desire came, that Buddha doesn't tackle. He says that's beyond. So he appeals to the modern rational mind. And rational mind works like that. Intolerant of the lawless and the unique. Everything must have a cause and effect. That's why you have such elaborate theories of rebirth and karma. Oh, you must have taken money, so you are paying. Who knows, maybe I am paying now and I'll get later. We don't know. But that's how it goes. Sometimes to the exact penny, people believe like that. Oh, this person fell sick and his husband or wife spent so much money and eventually still he died. You know why? These are the stories, popular stories of karma. Last life, he must have taken money. So now he has to spend. From whom he must have taken money? Probably from the doctor and this person. So you have spent on this person and the doctor given money and eventually still to die. When the karma scene got over, then she died. That's it. Obviously, this is a populist notion. Reason will not accept all these things, He'll say, okay, don't give me all this. Tell me about what you... That's why Buddhist explanation of karma is very logical explanation. So it doesn't understand that this world is a free unfolding of the delight. Freedom? Infinity? No, don't talk about it. Imposing reflection on the march of force, imposing clarity on the unfathomable. She strove to reduce to rules the mystic world. So people often say, Mother said this, you know why? She did not like, she liked. What do we know? Shobinda says, they claim to know the deep designs that she hid from herself. Because she has not brought them out into the play. They claim to know. Oh, because of this, she did this. This is going to happen. That we have these weird notion. No, Kali will strike if you do. I mean, not realizing if she ever comes at your call, the first person who will fall is you yourself, because you are invoking her presence. So we have these ideas about the divine, but divine always seems to behave in the most irrational way. Shobinda puts it, there is something called as the grace which no calculation and understanding. And then he gives example of Jagai and Madhai of infamous fame. Drunkards who used to beat up all those devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Angulimal, who was killer. Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, who was a dacoit. But grace comes. Logical? Well, blame it on karma. But it's something which exceeds beyond human understanding. It's the space we give to the utter freedom of infinity. There is a divine reason behind it, but not a reason that we can reduce to human terms. Nothing she knew, but all things hoped to know. In dark, inconscient realms, once void of thought, missioned by a supreme intelligence to throw its ray upon the obscure vast, an imperfect light leading an erring mass. By the power of sense and the idea and word, she ferrets out nature's process, substance, cause. Ferrets out. She studies in detail and brings out, oh, because of this. You ate curd, therefore you had cold. Elementary reasoning. Then you say, no, people eat curd and they don't fall ill. So no, curd it was stale curd which contained certain germs. Oh, but there are people who take germs, they inhale all kinds of germs with impunity and they don't fall ill. Then it discovered, so there is the immunity inside you. Okay, then it goes further and see how centuries have gone past in this reasoning. Oh, this immunity depends upon your psychological state. That's what mystics have been saying since centuries. But reason won't accept it prima facie. Now it is reaching a point where it is saying, yes, faith is a great power. But it has taken it few centuries. And now also because I think it's because of the supramental action that it has been hastened. All life to harmonize by thought's control, she with the huge imbroglio struggles still. In yoga this is very common, and Shobinda would once very semi-humorously someone said, oh, this sadhak, such a great sadhak, always in control. What happened to him after so many years? Suddenly he started behaving like this and went away. Shobinda said it was all mental control. Never allowed the psychic to emerge. It was by the mind, right and wrong and do's and don'ts, purely by the rigid mental ideas. So when the soul emerges, it upsets that. So this mental control is always a precarious thing. That's why the story of Yudhishthir in Mahabharata, he is the most mentally controlled person. Always will speak the truth, always will do the right thing. Look at this man that when it came to the game of dice, he did something which even a most ordinary person would not do. He put his kingdom, put his brothers. Kingdom, he could still have the illusion that it is mine. How could he believe that he could put human beings on the stake? His wife, everything. How could you do it? It's irrational, but he behaved irrationally, most irrationally. And Shobinda gives this example in one of his letters. That sattvic people controlled by the mind, but they are prone to these irrational things, like the example of Yudhishthira. Is an example of what sattvic control can achieve and what are its limits. So it struggles still with the imbroglio. And this is very interesting. ignorant of all, but her own seeking mind to save the world from ignorance he came. As I said, Savitri is full of humor. Ignorant of all. It knows nothing except that I have a seeking inside, seeking mind. And still it comes to save the world from ignorance. That's why the first thing that one must know is, who art thou in this dungeon laboring? That poem of Sri Aurobindo, a vision of science, where he says a century's progress was before my eyes. And he speaks about electricity, he speaks about, atomic energy, everything. And religion has gone into the background, but as religion is fading and science, the new goddess, is ascending the throne, religion tells her, look, I am going. And he says there is a third spirit standing behind, waiting, which will come later on, after reason. So religion is telling science, even as he goes, thou thinkest term and end for thee are not. But though thy pride is great, thou hast forgot the sphinx that stands by thee beside the way. All questions thou mayst answer but one day. Her question shall await thee that reply, for they who cannot die. She slays them, and their mangled bodies lie upon the highways of eternity.
It's interesting, today I copied out that poem.
Wow.
Rhymed couplets.
And look here, then comes the last line. Therefore, if thou wouldst live, then answer first this one thing. If you really want to have the whole field and live on, answer first this one thing. Who art thou in this dungeon laboring? Maybe that's why, there was some kind of a communication.
Must have been.
Why should I feel like suddenly? It's one of my favorite poems, but you don't get into that poetic mood like that. But this is the first question. If I don't know who am I, then all my discoveries are limited by my self-knowledge. Because as is the self, that I will discover outside. That I will enjoy outside. That's why Sri Aurobindo says in one of the aphorisms, it is the error. Mankind errs in believing that it can create an ideal thing by changing government, systems, organizations, machinery. But this is an error. Why? Because what thou art within, that outside thee thou shalt enjoy. No power can save you from this law. So if within we believe we are puny little creatures, then we will always see puny littleness in the world. If we are carrying within ourselves darkness, we will see darkness everywhere. But when we grow into the vastness of the divine, then all is beauty, all is bliss. So this is why the first question is, who art thou? The moment you discover you are divine in your deepest essence, highest truth, then life becomes beautiful because of that touch. Then you see the same divine everywhere. I think with this we will stop. A sovereign worker through the centuries, it has patience, unlike the vital mind. A sovereign worker through the centuries, observing and remolding all that is, confident, she took up her stupendous charge. She has come on the scene.
Yeah.
This is okay, enough of this, old age and new age. I am going to now work. I'll find out. Look at the age of reason started with Aristotle. If you see in the modern context, in India there was another corresponding, but generally, and look, it took a long time. And now we see again, after that whole passage is over, now people are at least hoping that there is something greater, something spiritual, something like an intuitive. But it was necessary to go through 2000 years nearly.
Yeah.
So that is how reason works. Slow. The time came when it completely demolished religion. And even now you see the same thing, because Europe had to go through that phase. Now there is a new seeking, which is wonderful. So we'll stop here. We'll start tomorrow. And we have just about a page and a half where we break it. And we will stop with that.